Days on market reflects demand, pricing, and location all in one clean statistic. And one of the most important questions both buyers and sellers are asking in the Philly suburbs in 2026 is, how fast will the house sell? And the answer is, it depends. It depends on where the house is located, what town is it in, what school district is it in, what amenities are nearby, what towns are nearby. It depends on what price band you're in. And potentially most importantly, it depends on how you initially price the home. Days on market is one of the best real world indicators of demand, but it can get confusing because a lot of different statistics come depending on your definition of days on market. Is it days to closing? Is it days to contract? Is it the median? Is it the average? Is it citywide? Is it metro-wide? Is it sub-market-wide? All of these factor into how we interpret days on market and what it will ultimately mean for you as a buyer or a seller in the Philadelphia suburbs. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk through generally how we can interpret days on market, how these different definitions will change depending on your goals, and I'll walk through some of the specific submarkets in the Philadelphia suburbs. I'll primarily focus on Chester County, the Main Line, Bucks County, and then we'll head over to the Delaware and we'll look at Camden County over in New Jersey. So I will hopefully be providing practical takeaways for both buyers and sellers throughout. But as always, please reach out if you have more questions, subscribe, follow, like, do all the stuff below. That's my shameless plug for this. And now we can actually jump in. So what days on market actually means. So days on market, the most standard definition is from listing to contract. However, like I mentioned earlier, some people refer to days on market as from listing to closing. And when you're getting these big aggregate reports, I'm sure you've seen some on Zillow, Redfin, wherever else you may be looking. Maybe you previously worked with an agent and they were looking at the MLS. They start factoring in average days on market, median days on market, and these can all be skewed and may not be absolutely pertinent to your situation. So quick example of this and how days on market can change rapidly. And you need to know from a temporal perspective, from a geographic perspective, exactly what you're looking at. So last year in 2025, in January, for the whole Philly metro, the average days on market, according to the MLS, the listing service that agents use, it's the agent version of Redfin and Zillow. It's more accurate, it gets homes updated quicker. Redfin and Zillow have their problems. We'll talk about that in a video in the future. Anyway, the average days on market in the Philly metro was 21 days as of January 2025. If we then look at a similar report's average days on market just in April of 2025, so just a few months later, it was 9 days. It's a twofold difference. Now, if you had looked at the January days on market, gotten a sense of what demand was looking like in the Philly metro market, decided to list your home, and then it took 3 months to get the ball rolling and get everything set up, you'd be dealing with a very different setup and set of circumstances in April by the time you're actually listing your house. If you hadn't checked days on market, if you weren't working with an agent who is up to date on the stats in your specific location, you would have been put at a disadvantage. That's how days on market can influence your decisions as both a seller, in this case, and as a buyer. You need to know what the competition is doing. So we typically see in the spring months, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, days on market is probably going to drop a little bit. It's when people are looking to buy, it's when people are looking to sell. That's just how it goes. So let's talk, still at a high level, kind of this 30,000 foot view of how days on market can be manipulated a bit, how it impacts selling and buying decisions, particularly in the Philadelphia suburbs, and hopefully particularly in 2026. So what makes a home sell quickly or sell slowly in the Philadelphia suburbs? So a few things that make it sell quickly. One is a good price. It's my pricing theory. You want to start a little low, let the market compete, and push that price up for you. Overpricing is one of the quickest ways to drive up your days on market. Beyond that, location is big. Are you near a walkable town? Are you near a good commuting system, whether that's easy highway access? Maybe you're near SEPTA. Maybe you're down near a New Jersey transit station if you're in New Jersey. All of these are going to influence days on market, hopefully in a good way. Beyond that, the functionality, updates, and maintenance of your home. If you have a good layout, if you have not deferred maintenance on things that need it around your home, and you are working with someone, hopefully me, who is able to market your home in an advantageous way, we can get some drones up in the air, it'll be a whole thing, then you're probably going to continue to drop your days on market. Now, on the other hand, how are we seeing homes increase their days on market in the Philly suburbs? One, and the biggest one, overpriced. If you're looking on Redfin, if you're looking on Zillow and thinking about getting into this 2026 real estate market, I'm sure you've seen what feels like a higher than normal amount of price reductions, of people delisting and then listing maybe a month, 3 months, 6 months later at a lower price. This is all stemming from an initial issue with pricing, typically overpricing. It's the quickest way to drive up your days on market. Beyond that, a poorly presented home or just simply a less desirable micro location can drive up days on market. The Philly suburbs is very competitive, so honestly, you can kind of make up for those last two with the right price point. That's my theory. So now let's dive into the submarkets in the Philly suburbs that I focus on predominantly. Obviously, these will change as you get into other locations, but I think they're a useful case study for what we're looking at today and can provide a lot of useful information if you are going to list your home or if you're looking to buy a home over the next few months or anytime this year. So let's start. Chester County. This is a story of strong demand throughout, but variability within. Chester County has a strong mix of lifestyle choices in terms of really suburban, getting towards rural sprawl, and lovely downtowns, walkability, and access into Philly. Beyond that, there are a lot of good school districts in Chester County. That's going to drive up demand, which reduces days on market. These are all things to consider if you're looking to move into a Chester County suburb. So Chester County broadly, I'm going to read a little bit here because there's some stats that I think are going to be useful for you. A February 2026 Bright MLS snapshot indicated that median days, so median, not average, days on market for 76 for Chester County. So this is going to be a little bit higher than some of the other markets that we're going to talk about, mainline, New Jersey, Bucks County. So we're looking at 2.5 months-ish is your median days on market. We're closing in on that balanced market in Chester County. We've seen obviously a shift from a few years ago where it was just seller, seller, seller. They had all the power. You weren't getting inspections, prices were up. Now we're balancing out a little bit, but Chester County provides a lot of different options. So some particular areas are going to drive that days on market overall down. Some are going to drive it up. Let's talk about some of the areas that drive it down, these quote unquote desirable locations. So there's Westchester, Downingtown, Malvern, and Phoenixville. I grew up in Westchester. I currently live in Phoenixville, so I'll start with those two. Westchester has changed drastically in the last 20, 30 years. The downtown is unbelievably developed. There are a ton of amenities. It is extremely walkable. And for those, especially maybe you're relocating from Philly, maybe you're watching this down in DC right now and you're like, let me move to a real estate. This could be a location that provides kind of that ease of transition out of city life where everything's right at your fingertips to, hey, we can get there in 2, 5, 10 minutes. We get all the amenities we liked and we get to leave some of the stuff we didn't like so much behind. So that's also going to be part of the draw of Phoenixville. It's part of the reason my wife and I moved here after leaving DC. So we liked Phoenixville because there's an unbelievably vibrant, walkable downtown. In the summer months, they shut down the main strip from Friday to early Monday. So you can bring your kids out, you can bring your dogs out, you can visit the local breweries, the distilleries. It's a really fun time. Another good transition for relocators. In addition to those two, there's Downingtown and Malvern. Malvern obviously has great schools, your main line adjacent there. Downingtown, another area with great schools. And when I say great schools here, I mean as ranked by US News World Report. A great school is going to be a very personal decision for you and whoever you're making that decision for. So I'm saying great schools just in terms of how institutions have ranked them. It's not necessarily a good or a bad school for you individually. But anyway, great schools in these two locations. Downingtown in particular, pretty easy commute relatively. I hesitate to say any of the Philly suburbs are an unbelievably easy commute into Philly, but it is one of the easier ones. It doesn't make you want to rip your hair out every single day. Now, so what speeds up and by association slows down days on market in the Philadelphia suburbs? And right now we're talking about Chester County. One is school district draw. There are a lot of good schools in Chester County. People fight to get in those school districts, so that's going to drive down your days on market. Access to commuter rails and ease of getting into Philly. So that might be access to highways as well. And like I said from the outset, setting your home up for success in terms of don't defer maintenance, make sure that when we are getting to that point of listing, you are controlling the controllables. It's very important. It could create thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars for you. Do the little stuff. Okay, so moving to the main line. Now the story with the main line currently, and really historically, it's a very desirable place, is low supply, which means that you need high precision in how you're selling your home or high precision in terms of your strategy for buying a home in the main line. So structural scarcity in the main line stems from a few reasons. One, it's hard to build here. The zoning, the lack of free open land, it's been developed for years, it's been desirable for decades. There's not a lot of new development happening here. Moreover, when people do find their home on the main line, they like to stay here. So you're not seeing as constant a churn as you are maybe as in some of these other markets that we're going to talk about today. So when you're thinking about towns like Ardmore, Wayne, Haverford, Bryn Mawr, Villanova, all of these are going to have tighter issues in terms of there's a lot of scarcity going on. It's not where, hey, I can just go 5 minutes away from my prime objective like you're going to find in some parts of Bucks County, some parts of Chester County. It's throughout the whole main line. It's hard to find open inventory right now. Beyond that, you're competing against sophisticated buyers. For a lot of the buyers here, maybe they're buying their second home, maybe they're moving up, maybe they're relocating from DC, maybe they're relocating from New York, from Philly. You're dealing with people who have experience in real estate previously. So how does that affect sellers? Overpricing can hurt here more than in other locations. People are wise to the game of they think that they just need that one person to love their home and sign up for it. Yes, that absolutely happens. I personally think a better strategy is come in a little low, get the market interested, especially in that first week, those first 2 weeks, and the market will take care of driving that price up. And I think you will ultimately get a better price for your home. That's the goal. So what drives a lower days on market, aka higher demand in the main line? One, you're going to hear this over and over, school districts. Some of the best schools in the state, some of the best schools in the country are located along the main line. Beyond that, rail convenience. It's called the main line for a reason. It's easy to get into Philly compared to a lot of the other suburbs on the Pennsylvania side. Further, there are walkable hubs, think Suburban Square and Ardmore, where you get a lot of amenities that you might not get in a less developed portion of the Philly suburbs. People are going to want to be around these areas. And beyond that, people put a premium here on the flow of their house. Do you have updated kitchens? Do you have updated amenities in and around your house? Do Do you have unique amenities that might set your house apart? All of these things can drive down days on market because they provide unique benefits to buyers. So turning now, let's head up north to Bucks County. So what are the main drivers in terms of lowering days on market in Bucks County? Micro-location and school districts. So Bucks County, micro-location matters a lot. My dad actually grew up in Bucks County in the Doylestown area, so I can confirm for decades now, people fight for small micro-locations in Bucks County, where in others, you might be able to get some really good deals. And if you price correctly, you might be able to sell your home for quite a bit because we are close to these uber desirable locations. Beyond that, you're also fighting with people who are now moving down from New York and doing that commute. So there is heavy competition in Bucks County for the most desirable locations. So again, polled in February 2026, the median days on market for Bucks County is 60, so right at that 2-month window. So we're a little lower than Chester County, a little slower than looking at the main line. But again, that's county level median. When you're looking at uber desirable locations, if you're looking at Yardley, Doylestown, Council Rock, where you have high school demand, you have unbelievable character in these homes, you have downtown appeal, particularly with Doylestown, you're going to see that days on market drop beneath the county level wide 60, sometimes down to in the 30s or even lower if you're in some really premium locations. Beyond that, you're also getting a lot of lifestyle anchors up in Bucks County. It's why people want to live up there. Parks, trails, town centers, breweries, all of these things can drive down days on market, which gives you a sense of just how in demand these locations are. For example, Tyler State Park. There is a lot of demand around Tyler State Park right now. It makes sense. It's a wonderful amenity to have, especially if you're relocating from the city. Boy, does that green feel nice. I remember walking around the city down in DC before my wife and I moved up here, and there just wasn't enough green, even with the National Mall and all that. We just needed to see more green. So coming up here and getting excited about the start of looking at houses, and I would freak out about every yard. Yards and basketball hoops were all I wanted, and it's just been the best. So when you can get essentially a giant yard right next to your house, people are going to want that. Okay, let's take a trip over the Delaware and look at New Jersey, particularly Camden County and the submarkets like Haddonfield, Medford, Cherry Hill, and what we're seeing in terms of days on market there. So some people, I don't think this is a common saying, but you can kind of consider this little stretch of New Jersey as the New Jersey main line. You get really good, convenient rail access. You're getting a lot of demand in terms of people relocating out of Philly into the New Jersey suburbs. You have unbelievable schools, again, some of the best in the country, some of the best in the state. So you're getting a lot of competition, which drives down days on market in the New Jersey suburbs of Philadelphia. So looking again at the Bright MLS report on average days on market. So this is getting back to the end of 2025, but the average days on market was 31 days for Camden County. So like right at a month. So this is competing with that mainline days on market median and average, and it's lower than what we're seeing in Chester County and Bucks County. And part of that is proximity to the city. If you're commuting into the city, it's going to kind of naturally drive down days on market because the difference between a 20-minute commute and a 50-minute commute, when you get that full hour back a day, factoring in both ways, is a big deal to people. So the location and proximity to Philly here is going to make a difference. But what we're seeing in terms of the submarkets of Camden County and just a bit beyond Haddonfield, a lot of scarcity, like I was talking about with the main line, a lot of buyers looking at not so much inventory. That's always going to drive down days on market. Unbelievable schools, walkable downtowns, that transition where you can still get some city amenities being in the suburbs is going to really drive down days on market. So now if we look at Morristown, very strong schools again, more stable demand here, and you see a lot of demand at the higher price points. This is where price band comes in. So if you're looking at that $600 $700,000 home, this is going to be a little bit easier for you. If you're ticking up towards $1 million and then beyond $1 million, you're going to get a lot more demand here, and you might see some increased competition until you get to those truly astronomical prices where there's just not that many people who can afford it, so you're not having to deal with as much competition. Then Cherry Hill, it's a little more nuanced here, very segmented. A lot of people who essentially want the Philly feel, but don't want the extreme hustle and bustle of downtown. Cherry Hill's the next best thing for them. So that's going to drive certain pockets up. It's going to keep certain pockets down. It's very, very, very location dependent when you're in Cherry Hill. And then Medford, you're going to get a little bit of a different type of buyer profile here. Much more classically suburban, a little more land on the plots on average. But because of that, and because that is desirable, you're competing with everyone else who wants that type of lifestyle. So a little tax dependent on the prices too, but the big takeaways here are still the same. If you're keeping the price extremely competitive and you're really focusing on maximizing those first 2 weeks in terms of listing your house, days on market can tick down in all of these New Jersey suburbs. So let's take a step back again and kind of recap what makes a home sell faster. And some of these things are going to be controllable. Some of these things it's just good to be aware of based on the location of your home, but they're a little bit immutable. You're not going to be able to change these factors. So some of the ones you can't change. If you're in good, again, I'm talking in terms of like US News rankings, school districts, that's going to drop your days on market median average to whatever you're thinking of it. It's going to bring it down. Walkability in town centers, very similar. If you're near these, if people can get a lot of the amenities that they'd like, but still get that suburban feel, that's also going to drive down days on market. Similarly, again, transit access. You don't really have control over that unless you're on like a zoning board and you're going to change where these stations are built. I highly doubt that. But if you're near these SEPTA lines, if you're near the mainline rail system, if you're near these New Jersey transit lines, that is going to drive down your days on market as well, because it's going to entice commuters out of Philly or out of other major cities, and they're going to want to be located near you. Now, the more controllable side of this, one is just how you're keeping up your house and how you're presenting your house. So not deferring maintenance. A few years ago, when rates were through the floor and buyers were like, look, this is going to be the best time for decades. It has been the best time for decades to buy a house. You could get away with deferred maintenance. People would overlook that the HVAC system hasn't been serviced in years. They would overlook that, yeah, the windows are a little old, but we can make it work. That works even better when you're looking at that late spring, summertime, and people don't feel the drafts coming in. But that has changed since then. Buyers are now getting their inspections back. They are picking and choosing in terms of what maintenance they're willing to live with, in terms of what they need to do when they move in, and what they're not willing to live with. So you can set yourself apart by getting ahead of this before you list, making sure your controllables are up to date, and then in terms of marketing and presentation, that is always controllable. It takes, I would say, typically about 1 to 2 weeks of concerted effort to get that in a place where you're going to drive down your own days on market and maximize price. Turning to price, this is the biggest one. Think about it. If you list your home for $1, your days on market is going to be 1. Someone is just going to buy that house. They don't care. If it's $1, they'll just flip it the next day and potentially make hundreds of thousands of dollars. That same theory applies to pricing on the margins. In my opinion, overpricing is the easiest way to drive up your days on market and make you regret, unfortunately, where you listed your house. Starting a little lower, increasing that specific competition for your home will drive down days on market and will drive up price for you, and you will walk away feeling happy and confident that you got the best price possible for your home. Now, what makes homes sell a little slower? Overpricing. It's the biggest one. We talked about it earlier. I won't belabor the point, but overpricing is the quickest way to drive days on market up, especially now that buyers are getting a little more power back. Beyond that, there are some things that are hard to change unless you're willing to dump a lot of money in. I will caveat this too with typically dumping a ton of money into renovations in anticipation of selling your house. You do not get the ROI that you think you're going to get on that. Small, cheap cosmetic changes can absolutely make a difference. Refinishing floors, repainting rooms, maybe switching out your garage doors. These all have much higher ROI than, let's say, doing a master bath thinking that it's going to drive buyers into your doors. It's not, unfortunately. But controlling what you can in terms of presentation will make a difference for you. Location trade-offs can drive up days on market. So if you're by a busy road, if you have an awkward lot, if there's limited parking around you, if you're in a flood zone, all of these can unfortunately drive up days on market, and they're very hard to control from your end. But it is good to be aware of them because it's going to influence how you price your home. And finally, we talked about this again, I won't belabor it, but controlling the maintenance, especially if you do fall into one of these categories that might drive up your days on market, controlling what you can control, get that maintenance. Hopefully it is not exorbitantly expensive. If it does get to that point, it's when you should be talking to someone who can help you. I have a whole list of vendors I'd love to hook you up with. So if we get to that point, which I'd love to, reach out, let's talk about it. Then we can say, look, this is going to have a good ROI for you. This might not be as effective for you in terms of listing your home. So how should buyers use days on market in 2026? They should treat days on market as a negotiation signal, not necessarily a scoreboard. It lets you know that based on the specific house you're looking in, maybe the specific location that you're looking at, how much negotiation power you're going to have, especially once you're seeing prices for homes that you're interested in, which gets into, it helps you compare homes in similar areas. So let's say you're looking at a specific geographic market, you have two homes that seem almost identical to you, but they have different days on market. You can go in there and look, oh, this one is actually 1 minute away from a SEPTA station. The other one, the only access you have really that makes sense for your commute is by driving. It takes you 10 minutes to even get to a highway. That's why you see that different days on market. It lets you compare similar homes. So if a home is fresh, newly updated, good maintenance on it, priced well, you can assume days on market's going to drop. That's how that goes in the Philly suburbs. You're going to be dealing with a lot of competition there. If a home is sitting, if you see days on market, let's say you're looking in Chester County and you know what that median days on market is, it's 60, you think this home is representative of Chester County broadly, I hesitate to have you look at it in such a broad sense. You need to be looking more nuanced than that, but let's say that's what you're doing. Maybe the home's been on the market for 80 days, so we're essentially 3 weeks past what the average or the median days on market is for that county. Now you got to start asking yourself, is this just a bad deal in terms of pricing? Is it overpriced? Am I paying too much for this home? Are the terms in terms of what the seller wants just not advantageous to you, to your specific circumstances? Is the location off for you? All of these will factor in, and the days on market will give you that nudge to, hey, I need to look why something might be wrong here. Now, final thought here, let's get to sellers. I feel like this is where days on market really matters. It's one of those things, you list your home, maybe it's been out there 3 weeks, you saw your neighbor sell theirs in 2, and now days on market is all you're thinking about. You wake up and you're like, why hasn't this house sold yet? So price to win in the first 2 weeks. We are not pricing to test the market. Once you do that, if you didn't get the test right and you overpriced, now every buyer that walks through your door is one thinking, why hasn't this home sold yet? What's wrong with this home? And are they going to have to drop the price in the future? And maybe I can get a better deal on this. It's the quickest way to kill competition for your listing. The second thing that sellers should use days on market for is micro comps. Look at similar homes to you. Where were they priced and how long did it take them to sell? So you're not looking at county level days on market stats. You're looking at, hey, this home, same number of beds, same number of baths. Oh, we both have a pool. We're both near this in terms of distance wise, commuting station, highway, whatever it might be. Theirs was on the market for 8 weeks. I'd like to be below that. Probably means you need to price it below where they priced it. All of these things come into play when you're analyzing days on market in terms of how you're pricing your home. Beyond that, presentation matters. I'm sure you've seen it. If you're on Redfin, there are some homes you're just drawn into. Beautiful photos. Maybe they have a drone shot that you're able to look at. All of the presentation of your listing can drive down days on market for you and hopefully increase price a bit. And then in premium suburbs, and this is really true throughout the Philadelphia suburbs, precision matters more than optimism. Use days on market as a tool so that you can make precise offers. If you're a buyer, you can list your home in a precise manner. If you're a seller, you're using it to understand the competition. You're using it to understand where you need to price your home. Days on market should be viewed as a tool, not a goal. So if you are looking to list your home, maybe you're looking to buy a home, you've had a sense of days on market in your head, but you would just love some more guidance, please feel free to reach out, DM me, throw a comment in. I would love to answer them. I would love to talk. Please reach out and we can get started.